I'd like to introduce the cStor Intelligent Video Storage Solutions Practice Lead, Steve Davis. Steve?
Thank you, Neil, and thank you folks for joining us today. This topic that we're about to talk about is certainly one that is become challenging for most of you who are involved as operators of video surveillance solutions. And with the explosion of video surveillance data that is being collected, it has certainly created some new dynamics, not only for the physical security managers and operators, but for the network IT infrastructure folks as well. And the need for people to be able to work together to figure out how they manage the exponentially growing amount of video that has been collected. And then, of course, there's always the issues of how do we access it, how do we reduce operational costs, and then today as well, new compliance mandates that require companies to retain these assets for much longer. In many cases, people were only required to keep the assets for 7 to 14 days, sometimes, maybe months, but certainly not years. And in some cases now, with changing business practices or based on compliance mandates, we are now having to see some vertical markets be required to keep the video forever. Okay. And there is, the growth is extensive in regards to the amount of video that is now being captured on a daily basis. And I'm not sure, are you seeing my slide?
I am seeing it, Steve.
Yeah.
I think, there we go. Now it's switched to the next one.
Oh, okay. I have a little slow network here this morning, just like pushing all that large video down the pipe. So, daily video capture in 2014, was projected around 413 petabytes. We used to talk about gigabytes and terabytes. Now we're talking about petabytes and exabytes. And it's expected to grow by 2017 somewhere in the neighborhood of 859 petabytes, which is not that far from, an exabyte. And so, the applications requirements are growing exponentially. The number of cameras running at higher resolution with faster frame rate, and then the longer retention periods are just creating enormous performance and storage capacity requirements that maybe have not been faced in previous times. Okay. So there's a number of reasons that are driving these mandates. Kim, maybe you could assist me in, there we go. There's a number of market drivers that have caused this dynamic. Certainly tragedies such as 9/11, the Boston Marathon bombing, school shootings, have just triggered an increase in deployment of more sophisticated surveillance systems. So we've got increased numbers of cameras, and now we're capturing video 24/7. We have conversion from analog to digital formats, and we certainly, the high definition, high resolution video capture, running at faster frames per second. It just all leads up to a lot more video that we simply have to manage in today's world. Okay. The transition from analog to IP video has been significant. It's very similar to the things that have gone on in the past, like with our smartphones. We used to carry around these small pocket phones that were flip phones. Didn't have a lot of functionality. We certainly weren't taking pictures. We weren't capturing video. with them, and then with the the change from analog to IP, it's just had a significant impact on storage requirements. We see this in the data center environment. We see it with all the social media, and the IP video surveillance industry is paralleling that in many ways. And so it's obviously prompting more organizations to place more emphasis on storage to accommodate the explosion in surveillance data. Okay. So industry researcher IDC has indicated that storage procurements will begin to outpace that of cameras. For the last several years, camera sales have been extremely high. People have been increasing their coverage. People have been making changes from analog to IP high-resolution cameras. And then, there's a desire for people to do more analytics, and it has driven growth in network video surveillance data, and so therefore more storage is required to keep up. Okay. So as I mentioned previously, and it's interesting what we've seen being in the data center business, working with transactional data, things like mobile devices and social media in corporate data centers just, fueled what we call the big data growth. And video data, basically presents many of the same management challenges and characteristics of big data. For many of you who maybe have been around data centers and, the need to do backups and archive and retain important business information for many years, the same thing is now happening with video surveillance data, as the retention periods are longer and the need to retain the critical assets have become more important. So businesses need a better way, a cost-effective way to store, quickly search, recover timestamp segments, and then, a new area is to analyze the data to drive a return on investments. Okay. So a common challenge that's faced by many organizations is that, your video assets are growing rapidly, but budgets to support them necessarily are not. And this always becomes a challenge then on how do you keep up. So as video storage requirements grow, once again, challenges surface similar to the big data explosion in the data center. And one of the things that we see is disparate systems running various applications, just like in the data center, and that causes a rise in maintenance costs. There's a lack of centralized storage. Maybe there's disparate systems that are running JBOD disk, all that have to be managed independently. And so therefore, there's a lack of centralized storage and storage management, and you're managing more infrastructure than you would care to. And then as you add additional cameras, this becomes an increasing problem. And then there's concerns with video data integrity, because if you lose the video capture, if you don't get it stored properly, if you don't maintain it, migrate it, and make it available, once you've lost it, and obviously it leads to potential liability issues. And then, there's, based on some of the techniques that have been used in the past, VHS tape, sometimes unreliable, slow mechanical disk, there then becomes difficulty in recovering the data within a needed time frame. So that becomes very challenging, and being able to find ways to centrally manage your storage becomes more and more important. So some of the challenges that most of the folks that we talk to, and if we were to talk to you folks in person, which we hope to be able to do downstream here, there's a need to more intelligently manage this high-definition video and more efficiently manage longer retention periods improve data integrity, provide faster access, lower the overall total cost of ownership, and then, if possible, create a measurable return on your investment, which is new to this industry. And we'll talk a little more about that and discuss the benefits of video analytics and business intelligence. So at cStor, we believe the answer is intelligent video storage solution. And by intelligence, we mean a better way of managing the video from the time it's captured, initially stored possibly on primary disk, all the way to possibly a deep archive in the cloud. So what is intelligent video storage? That's what folks ask me when we talk about this term. Well, what we're really doing here is configurable converged virtual server infrastructure, meaning that what we want to do is, instead of managing a large number of disparate PC boxes and individual disk storage components attached to those boxes, we want to be able to converge this storage, create a virtual server infrastructure, and be able to have one single view for management. And then another important feature is tiered storage. The tiered storage architecture that could be on-premise, start on-premise with primary high-speed disk, so that for video that you need to recover over a period of 7 to 14 days or maybe up to 30 days, stays locally on-premise. It could then move possibly to slower, less costly disk as it starts to age, and then all the way out to a deep cloud archive position, still, managed by a single management interface so that you can have fast access and retrieval. You make sure you maintain data integrity, and then through video analytics, you can create business intelligence. And we'll talk a little more about what kind of business intelligence we believe can be developed through some of the software components that we tie to our IVSS solution. And then overall, reduce complexity and a lower total cost of ownership. So that's the goal with intelligent video storage solutions. So benefits from IVSS. The video analytics and the business intelligence is something that's rather new to the industry, although I would imagine that most folks have heard it, seen or read about it, or maybe if you've attended the ISC West show recently, talked to software manufacturers about it. And the idea here is to convert your expense, the expense of capturing, storing, and managing your video assets into something with some business intelligence where you can actually develop a measurable return on investment. And there's a lot, when we're talking about video surveillance, in many cases what we think about is security. And that has been a large portion of the industry. And the focus, and rightfully so, and as we talked about early on, it's driven by some of the events, the violence that has gone on within our country and other countries previous who actually are a little further ahead of the United States in their video surveillance practice. So, you think about things like reducing liability, but it's also about protecting assets and protecting people and reducing risk and lowering cost. Then you get into other areas, maybe increase profitability in retail environments, improve efficiencies, improve quality control. To meet your mandates, reduce time to resolution, proactively identify trends, and streamline analysis and improve reporting and response times. I see it being used to monitor traffic flow, reduce manual intervention, reduce human error, and protect chain of custody, which definitely gets back to the whole original idea of security and video surveillance. Okay? So, cStor, what do we do? At the end of the day, yes, we provide products and software and solutions and integration services But what we're really doing in our business practice today is specializing in asset management services by delivering intelligent video storage solutions. We believe that we're pioneering a new era of video management. And we're able to do this quite effectively because we transfer our in-depth experience and our proven expertise with storage and the data center environment over to our asset management services by delivering these intelligent video storage solutions. So we are a bit different. We are not a physical security reseller or integrator, although we do provide integration services. We are once again focusing on the best practices associated with managing your critical and important video assets, storing them, developing tiered storage strategies so as the video ages, we can migrate the video effectively all the way, if need be, off-site to a deep archive in the cloud, but yet always making it highly available, very secure, and giving you the ability to always retrieve those assets very quickly and using the least amount of IT network infrastructure as possible. Okay. So that's our presentation for today. I'm going to turn it back over to Kim so that we can answer your questions.
Great, thanks so much, Steve. Great presentation, very timely, certainly. We do have a few questions from the attendees today. First question, can you speak further to the virtual server, aka converged architecture?
Yes, just as virtualization has become prevalent in the data center environment, we now have technologies that allows us to do the same thing with video assets. And basically, what we're doing here is eliminating the need to continuously add disparate PCs or additional PC boxes with independent amounts of storage. I mean, a very traditional thing is to buy a PC, got maybe 36 terabytes of storage, and when that fills up or grows, or you're adding cameras and you're doing an expansion, or maybe you're going from analog to digital or higher resolution cameras that requires more storage, to effectively manage it, you need additional PCs. We're now delivering virtual servers that are very powerful, optimized for video, single view for managing and adding additional server components and additional storage components, once again, with a single view and single point of management versus managing individual boxes.
Great, thank you. One more question. How do you see the massive amount of data that video creates over an affordable pipeline up to the cloud?
There's no question that that is a challenge. You have to have the network infrastructure available, but it's really based on timing. How quickly do you need to get it off your primary storage and in the cloud? How often are you going to have to access it? How often? And what size are the files that you will be pulling back? That really dictates the size of the network infrastructure, the amount of capacity or pipe bandwidth that you actually need. And these are the kinds of things that our team, once again, with our expertise in managing enterprise-class data centers and multiple locations, and being, pulling data back across networks into central locations, that our system engineers, solution architects, our team, can assist with designing that, sizing that, and giving you ideas about the kind of bandwidth that you'll need.
One more follow-up question to that. What about on-site tiered storage? IVC says it's 26 times less expensive than disk.
Well, I guess that will need to be proven. I do not honestly have a great deal of experience. Did you say peer or tiered, Kim? What was the question?
Tiered storage.
Oh, tiered storage.
On-site tiered storage, correct.
On-site tiered storage to me could be fast spinning disk on the front, less expensive disk. There are even applications today that allow you to go out to tape. And if you need to, and many companies do, actually maintain all of your assets on site, it's a very effective way to go.
And I think that was the point of tiered. It was tiered to a tape library from the same person asking that question. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes, that can also be a very effective strategy. Tape libraries, obviously, the cost is in the media. The media is very inexpensive. You can rotate the media in and out of the tape library itself. And there are software tools, middleware tools now that allow you to know where the video assets are stored on what piece of media. And LTO tape has surfaced as a viable option on the back end as a Tier 2 or Tier 3 storage medium.
Hey, Steve, this is
Thank
Neil.
you.
I'll just add in there that a lot of our customers are also looking to the cloud for that Tier 2 or Tier 3 as part of their tiered strategy as well.
Yes, they are. And the cost, once it's in the cloud for the cloud storage, is really relatively inexpensive. You know, the other challenges, as someone had brought up, is around the fact that you do have to have the bandwidth, but the bandwidth is all about how many times am I going to go get it, how often, how fast do I have to get it back, what are the size of the video assets or the files that I need to pull back, and that'll tell you, you know, the amount of bandwidth, and which will relate to your cost.
Great, thank you. We have time for one or two more questions here. I do have one more. Does cStor come out to our location to perform a site assessment, or how does that process work?
Yes, absolutely. We can have a conversation over the telephone about your current environment, and we can meet with you face-to-face, and then we can have solution architects come on site and do a complete analysis at no charge for the initial analysis, to do discovery around how you're managing things today, what VMS software you might be using, how you're storing it, how often you need to retrieve it, what your bandwidth exists and looks like today, and then offer solutions around an intelligent video storage solution set.
Great, thank you. That actually concludes the Q&A portion.